So second video review for this week is for Somewhere Along the Way by Kathleen Knowles. If you want to check out my Goodreads review, I did just post that the other day. So if you're on YouTube, there's a link in the description below, and if you're on Facebook or my blog, then there is a link within the post. And this is a video review. So Somewhere Along the Way by Kathleen Knowles. Wow, this was a liberating but completely heartbreaking story. When Kathleen asked me if I would review this or if I'd like to review it, I really didn't know what I was going to be getting, and I really was pleasantly surprised, and I really enjoyed it. It's the story of Max. It's completely Max's story. She's loving loving living it up and the freedom of the ever-changing LGBT community, if you like, that was growing in San Francisco at the time that the book is set. And she's there with her gay best friend Chris, and they're full of hope and dreams, and they embark on this adventure of liberation, freedom and science. But Max's life, it's one hell of a roller coaster, and she kind of falls into the crowds and finds her life is turning into one big party, but with tons and tons of consequence. So her whole life is kind of hanging in the balance. And this story is basically Max's fight to survive the liberating and scary times of the early 80s, sort of get her life back onto a path, onto a track that won't end in total destruction. So it's really Max's story. It was such an informative and educational story for me, obviously, because I'm not old enough to remember these times, and even if I was, I wouldn't have been in San Francisco. So it was a real snapshot into history, and as it's solely Max's sort of story, the choice of first person narrative really gives experiences and feelings and thoughts Max has in such a personal and intimate way. You really get to connect with Max during this story. And I also loved how it was set out in parts as well, so it wasn't just one long continuous story. It's obviously taken into consideration a period of Max's life, but they are different periods, if you like, different parts of her journey, and each part has been given its own section within the book. So there's part 1, part 2, part 3, which you would have seen from the reading updates, and it's a really important journey for Max. It's her coming to terms with what her life has become and how to get out of that mess that she's created. And I love how Kathleen's attention to detail, I really admire her. She must have done a lot of research for this, in trying to realistically explore Max's destructive behaviour in all elements of her life, because it affected her relationships, her friendships, her career, her future prospects. It really affected everything, where she was living, what she was doing, everything. Every circumstance was affected by what Max was doing, and it was quite emotional really reading about some of the experiences Max went through, or was exposed to, because during her journey she's had to endure so much. I mean, I really love these types of stories where you find a story. I mean, I do like history if it's told to me the right way and I can engage with it, which I could in this. And I love learning and discovering all the history of what the community's been through and getting to where it has today, and sometimes even seeing the similarities and the differences and everything, and it's great. And Max, she was thoroughly involved in that world, as her story sort of played out, and it was sad to read about the things that, you know, were of a darker subject matter. So this book does cover some things like AIDS, but they were really imperative to the story and how it affected Max personally and her life and her friendships and everything, and explained a lot about the impacts on Max's life and why she behaved the way she did. And the impact it had on her emotional well-being. I think that was really, really important in this. It was Max's emotional, mental well-being, and my heart really went out to her a lot, Max. I could see how she was going down this destructive path. I could see how she wanted that liberation and freedom, but then the impacts it was going to have long term, and it was very tragic, everything she went through, but I cheered her on throughout, and I really hoped, you know, for a really bright future for Max. And I hope that when Max, you know, after part 3, I really hope she did have that bright future. I do, because she deserved it. She did. She was, you know, hardworking when she applied herself, and it's very easy to get caught in on a destructive path without even realising it sometimes. But I'm so glad I had the opportunity to read this book, and I was genuinely blown away with how easy it was to connect with Max so intimately. She really was a character I felt I understood, even though I can't have even begin to imagine what it must have been like for her going through some of those experiences. And it sounded like a lot of fun, but I'm guessing Max is the epitome of showing you that it wasn't always as fun as it seems, or as glamorous as it may be painted, or anything like that. There were consequences. There's always consequences whenever somebody thinks they're having too much fun, and there's just, you know, these things you have to think how they're going to impact your bigger life, not just act in the spur of the moment and be like, yeah, I'm going to do this right now. And it's you have to think, you have to be responsible, and Max, she slowly learned that. But I love this story, and I would highly recommend it. I really would. It's historical romance, if you like, and it's captures a very important time in history that if you weren't exposed to it or you weren't aware of it, this would be a great sort of eye-opener for you to learn about it. And it gives a lot of insight into things that happened at the time. And so I just think it's a very important book, and I think if you like things like that, if you like history, but even if you don't, I think it's a great book to read to introduce yourself to a part of it. Max is a truly unique character, and I think you'll really enjoy meeting her, even though she'll make you want to bang your head against a wall a lot, but she's you can tell underneath all that destruction, she's a lovely, lovely person, and she was just trying her best. But I just love how it displays the message of the fact that it captures that time in history, and just how a path of destruction, it can always be rectified with a little bit of help and support. That was a really important message in the book. There is always help out there. There's always support if you get it, and you know, you can overcome your demons for definite. Like, Max is the epitome of that, and I loved that. So I'll pop a link in the description so you can go and grab a copy of Somewhere Along the Way by Kathleen Knowles, and I hope you will. If you've read Somewhere Along the Way, it would be great to get your thoughts on it, and so get involved, comment below, let me know what you thought of it. If you haven't read it yet, but you're planning to read it, it's on your to be read list, or you're now really, really interested in reading it, again, it would be great to hear from you, because it's always fantastic to hear what you're interested in reading. And if you do read it, I really, really hope that you have a great experience reading it, that you learn something, and get that connection with Max, and just have a lovely time reading it. Bye!